For those of you that don't know, I am Jason. This is Savage Mind Podcast. Now, I'm doing this a little bit different today, and I just want to bring all of my loyal listeners and subscribers up to speed. Don't expect nothing huge and groundbreaking right now, but I'm doing a little something different with the podcast starting today. So the viewers that are going to be able to see the video, you will not see my equipment that I've talked about for so long. Yes, I have it. I have showed pictures of it. As I have said many times, I don't have my makeshift studio ready. A real quick analysis. I'm about halfway through the fourth season of this podcast, and up until now, besides being a guest on a couple other podcasts, maybe about three, which I was very grateful to do so. I have been primarily, really, every podcast I do is just me. For those that know and follow the podcast, listen consistently or occasionally, understand why that is, especially the people that know me personally. They know my mission, they know my purpose, what I'm about, what this podcast is about, and how I live my life, and what my message is, and what my crusade is. Now, with saying that, I have no problem talking about how I have to keep it in a certain budget. And for 3.5 seasons, my podcast was for free. If you choose not to subscribe, it's still free now. I'm encouraging you to go subscribe, as this podcast can be found on Spotify, Apple Play. My biggest, so where I get my most listeners and supporters in the first couple 3 seasons was Spotify. Anchor put me on, and now I guess where people are having the problems, Anchor and Spotify combined, I guess they merged, and it's now called Spotify for Podcasters. Now, maybe it's just because I'm not a tech geek, and I'm not against people who are at this stage in life getting started with certain things at an older age. I wish there was a lot of things I wish I already knew. But even at this point, with everything I'm about, if you don't know what I'm about, it still doesn't interest me. I do it out of necessity, and it's crucial that I learn certain things. So, with saying that, I would like to encourage anyone to subscribe, please. Not because I have more money in my pocket, but because that's how. I mean, like I said, 3.5 seasons for free. It's an option to subscribe. You have a choice between about $2 and $10 a month, unless you want to donate more. I've said it many times. Even if you do $10 a month, what is that per week? $2.50 a week. I'm going to do, up until this point, I'm going to do no less than one podcast a week. I try to get 2. I usually do 4 to 6 a month. Excuse me. For everyone listening to this podcast that has listened to me periodically or consistently, I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful if you listen and don't subscribe. I made some changes a couple of months ago. Done with my training today, light training. For those of you that don't know, I'm not a again, when people refer to athletes, I wonder, some people have the mindset that people are, if you're not an athlete unless you're a professional. Obviously, I'm not that. I never have been that. I'm never going to be that. But I am an ultra endurance athlete. I've always been an athlete my whole life, but I've been running distance and doing obstacle racing and lifting weights for years. I haven't been a heavy into lifting weights in years because of injuries. I've been a distance runner for over 20, and I've been transitioned into the ultra community the last 2.5, and so I'm still considered a beginner in ultra running. I've been obstacle racing, not near enough, no competition with no one, not comparing to no one. This is my journey. This is my purpose. If you know me, you know what it's about. You know my backstory. You know that how I live my life, everything that I talk about and that I stand for. I don't just talk about it and post about it and speak about it. I live it. So I'm an obstacle racer, ultra endurance athlete. I'm a father. I'm a grandfather. I'm a husband. I'm a brother. I'm a worker. I'm many things, and I am what I am whatever anybody thinks I am. Whatever story you've heard about me or you hear about me, don't let me change that. I don't want to change it. Whatever shit you heard about me, believe the shit. It's probably true at whatever phase of life I was at. Period. Don't give a fuck at all. It's not for me to decide and change someone's mind or what they think about me or say about me. My position, my journey, my purpose, my crusade is to speak the truth and to talk about things people don't want to talk about and address the issues in society, address the issues inside our family, and address the issues with ourselves, our children, our grandchildren, to change the trajectory for the next generation, to change the mindsets for growth, for evolution, for self-discipline, accountability, no enabling. Our life should be about growth. It should be about progress. Doesn't mean material things. Doesn't mean money. That is a tool. Generational wealth is transferred through knowledge and education. And a lot of us with a reasonable amount of self-education is very threatening to those people who don't have it. So for those who have heard me in the past, I'm just bringing you up to speed because I'm doing this podcast. I'm using 2 different platforms today. So again, I made some changes on my podcast a couple of months ago. And I went to subscription only. Thought I did. Which meant if you want to listen to my podcast, you had to go subscribe. This was a recommendation to me, and there was more tools that were being promoted on the podcast platform. And again, I have no expectations. I'm not comparing my podcast to anyone after 4.5 seasons. I have very much if I was where I wanted to be, I would have a guest every episode. When I get to that point where I have guests, it's not going to be every episode. Some of these same subject matters that y'all have heard me talk about will be, again, talked about on the episodes. Again, my plans are bringing everyone on from tattoo artists to ultra endurance athletes to people in mixed martial arts to musicians. Everybody that knows me knows I love music and I have no musical talent whatsoever, vocally, instrumentally, or anything. I love talking about music, preferably rock, but I like all genres of music. So this is Savage Mind Podcast. And this lifestyle, if anybody that knows anything about my brand or knows anything about me, this is about savaging up your life. It's by my own definition of what a savage really is, because I think in this watered down, enabling, yes, snowflake society of canceling anything that you don't want to hear because you don't agree with it or it offends you because it happens to be true, probably, most likely. What people consider savage. And I'm not just talking about our generation, which I'm a Generation Xer, proud of it. And I'm from Texas, which I'm proud to be from Texas, but I guess I'd be proud to be from somewhere else. So I don't live and die on no hill. I don't live and die on no team. My purpose and my passion is my life story. And for those that know it, then you know what I'm talking about. From childhood to now, what I stand for, what I live, not becoming a victim of circumstance or the victim in the life at all. This podcast, this brand, what I stand for is about no victims. It's about accountability. It's about no enabling. It's about no sugarcoating. It's about telling the truth no matter who it offends, no matter what your relationship is with them, and not attacking anyone. But again, everything feels like an attack when you're holding people accountable and telling the truth. So I'm doing this today because I'm doing this a different way. For those seeing the video part of it, I've had some YouTube channels in the past. I believe that they're still open, but they're not active, and I have been neglectful of them. So again, on my second ultra today. Not ultra training. I'm in maintenance mode right now. I start back training for my next ultra in about 2 or 3 weeks. It's about 8, 9 weeks away. So did some basic training today. Did a little work around the house. And if you're in Texas, again, yeah, I'm gonna talk about the weather. I'm a summertime person. I love summer. I think it's the best season of the year. That will never change. I still will take it over I will the extremely cold weather. Hate fucking cold weather. I love stuff about fall. I love the holidays and the lights at Christmas, all that shit. Love a few scented candles and coffee and all that bullshit too. I mean, I'm not saying it's not cool, but I'm about outdoors. I'm about the pool. I'm about the river. I'm about the fucking beach. Period. The beach. Anything beach. Whether it's turquoise blue water or it's Galveston, Texas, where our other home is, and part time and saltwater. And but we have been, I don't know, maybe I'm not saying this exactly. Every summer in Texas is pretty brutal. Maybe it's just because I'm getting older. I'm conditioned to handle the heat. I trained in the heat. I'd rather train in the heat than the cold. I backed off on my training. Well, let me say this. I'm in maintenance mode, so I'm not really training right now. So if there was a time to scale back my miles and the time of day, if it's even 90 degrees, sometimes I'll train twice a day. When I mean train twice a day, I'll train before work, go to work, work all day, and then train again. Anybody that knows me knows I'll do that. Don't like afternoon workouts, don't like evening workouts, but nonetheless, it's an excuse. Let me recommend, and we'll get in, I recommend you go and listen to other podcasts in the past or other ones going forward when I do training podcasts about getting your workouts in the morning. It sets a tone for the day. It makes you feel better. Glucose levels are different. You know, it releases dopamine and endorphins, and it also eliminates the excuse that you won't do it during the day. You'll talk yourself out of it. Depending on what you eat, it changes your energy levels. Maybe you want to go to happy hour with your friends. You want to come home and Netflix or Hulu binge. And I say I haven't done it, but I just think that I live by the fact that morning workouts and try not to miss Mondays. So when I say I scaled back, I cut my miles in half for the week and decided to rotate gym days, which is what I started doing was, so quick, not getting, this ain't the podcast. This is like a reset podcast for everyone listening, because this is what I was getting at on YouTube. I have two older YouTube channels that I have totally neglected. For everyone asking me about my podcast and wanted to know why is it not on YouTube, it's because maybe there's something I still don't know. Maybe there's something I'm uneducated on. When it comes to technical stuff and things like this, I've educated myself as I went for what I thought I needed. But when I'm doing, like, people that know me know my study material, what I study, my audio books, my online classes, all of the content I take in. Again, social media and the internet is a tool. It is a resource. We decide how to utilize that. I didn't years ago, probably for the last real 6 to 8 years. I've really, people that know me, it's the truth. I take in so much content that I have to slow myself down and write it down. So it's a tool. It's social media is not the problem. It's the user. It's what most people choose entertainment over they do self-education and improvement. You want people to think they're doing stuff, and some of them are, but it's a very small percentage. Most people aren't living what they post. So I can't have the YouTube. I don't have my podcast started in like February of 2020 after I went to a podcast event called Podfest in Orlando, Florida in 2020. After I got invited, and I went, and I needed to have 1 or 2 podcasts posted, so I did 2 before I went. Up until now, number 3, after you're done with your responsibilities for the day. People that do that first usually don't take care of their responsibilities. I'm not even a big beer drinker anymore. It's just what I have today. And I don't feel like going to the store. So I had people reach out to me, you need to do a podcast, man. You really need to write a book. You need to do this. And so I'm a podcaster, like I said, dad, worker, ultra endurance athlete, obstacle racer, grandfather, father, stepfather, spouse, brother. I don't have any living parents or grandparents, anything like that. I'm not gonna get that into this podcast. So with not having video clips, I haven't been on YouTube where people can just hit subscribe button, hit subscribe. So I guess I'm at almost 190 episodes since February of 2020. I believe I don't share this with a lot of people. Again, what's progress? What's making your goals? It's relevant to the person, just like success is. Something else we need to talk about. Redefining what success and happiness looks like. Another podcast. Vape. Again, manifestation. Anybody that knows me knows even with the way I dress and everything I do on a daily basis, I do what I have to until I can do what I want to. Do I vape? Yes. Have I ever done drugs? No. I'm not against nobody who has. Talk about that in another podcast. Never done it. I've drank way too much in my life, no doubt. I don't consider myself a heavy drinker now, especially how I live my life. I've never done drugs. I used to use tobacco, don't know more, but I do vape. This is pineapple and coconut ice. Beat shit. Love it. Everything's related. Everything's related. We'll talk more about that later. Manifestation. So, my goal has never been to just do the podcast for myself. Again, so it's all been audio. I believe I'm in about 35, 37 countries, even if it's 1 to 3%. I've exceeded my expectations on listens and downloads. Where I'm losing at is even without having a video platform and totally not having the YouTube platform, which is fucking huge. I'm on Apple Play, Google Play, I believe, Spotify. There's about 6 or 7 platforms I'm on. Spotify used to be my biggest distributor, and then it was Apple Play. From what I'm looking at, again, when you're a creator of a page, you're a creator of something like this. You see all the demographics, you see all the analytics. So I see what gender, what age group, what part of the state they're in, what county they're in, what country they're in, and it's beneficial to me, and it helps me study. Like a lot of my social media stuff that I post, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and I've really neglected some of that lately. I apologize for that. It's not laziness. It's just life, and I got to be proactive with that. I have no expectations. Am I ever going to be wealthy financially for doing this? My message and my mission is so important to me that people need to hear. People need to hear stories like mine, from childhood to now to what I would deal with the rest of my life. This is not bragging about myself. People that know me, I know a lot more disciplined people than myself. And a lot of these people I have not met. In my daily life, my day-to-day life, I do not know anybody more disciplined. I do not know but a small percentage of people, and I mean very small, that have been through what I have been through in life. Put aside my self-inflicted stuff. That was earlier in my life, and I dealt with that. Wasn't drugs, wasn't prison, wasn't laziness. Never. Talk about it later. That know my journey. I should not be who I am. And one of the things I talk about, other people have even said, you got to be one of the most strongest motherfuckers I know. Sometimes I wasn't even aware of it. That all the things that came to break me, for me to be a victim of circumstance, for me to give up in life, maybe decide to do drugs, maybe decide to take my own life, whatever it is, I shouldn't be who I am. And I have stuff that I have to deal with from now on that'll never go away. There's no closure. I was already working on this for years before I understood what I was doing. Buddy came to me and said, he happens to be regardless of what you think success is, he's published 2 of his own books. This is a guy I grew up with. I ain't gonna say his name. When I got invited to the podcast event, I didn't even have a podcast. Other people had seen my Facebook videos. I didn't go, oh, I'm gonna make money. I go, oh, what kind of impact can I make? And this is why. You need to hear it from people like myself that's not professional athletes, not celebrities, and are not financially rich. We tend to listen. There's nothing wrong with those. It doesn't mean those people didn't work hard. Didn't mean they didn't make sacrifices. But it doesn't mean they did either. Maybe not athletes and celebrities, because they probably did. But just people we know in day-to-day life that are financially wealthy. Doesn't mean they didn't work hard. Doesn't mean they didn't. We'll get into that in another podcast. What I'm saying is, as a society, flex all, materialistic, self-absorbed, narcissistic society that we live in. We listen to professional athletes and celebrities and people who are financially wealthy, even if we do not know their backstory or how they arrived or the formula to get where they're at. We may not even know the true story of it. You had to have made a lot of sacrifices and been real self-disciplined to be a professional athlete, even at a low level. Even with certain just natural genetics and skill, you still had to fucking do some kind of work, no doubt. Same thing with being an actor or actress or celebrity, no doubt. But when it comes to people we know in society or in daily life, we say that, let's say they're millionaires. What I'm saying is, they may have worked hard to get where they're at. They may have made a reasonable amount of sacrifices, may have had discipline. They may have come from a poor family. They may have struggled. They may have went to fucking night school. They may have worked 3 jobs. Whatever the story, you get where I'm going with this. But it doesn't mean they did either. I want to know the formula before I can give any attachment of value to that. That's me. That's anything. Everybody that we make famous is stupid as fuck, that we give credit to. We attach value to that. It's our fault. I have no expectations with this, but I'll never stop. People that know my story know how intense it is. I shouldn't be who I am. What I try to do is relate to the other 80 or 90% of people out there. Know that a person can actually be look, do I want to still be a working class person? No. None against it. I've been doing it my whole life. If I had the tools and self-education I have now, I still wouldn't be that. I don't think like a working class person. I think like an entrepreneur. But technically, I'm still a working class guy. No doubt. Not ashamed of it. I've been doing it for 30-something years, though. So if I never had to be a working class blue-collar guy from here to the rest of my life, I'm fucking good. That's what I'm saying. We're supposed to leave people tools, not do it for them. People need to identify that there's someone out there besides celebrities, besides TV evangelists, besides professional athletes, besides people who are wealthy and financially successful that may or may not have worked for it, depending on who their family is, but depending on what steps they got to skip, what they got inherited, what they got left to them, how they got to plug in, how they got enabled and spoiled, whatever it is. I want to know the formula first. And the person out there that can do that is someone like myself. My message is intense. It's not popular. It's hard to hear. It's hard to swallow. But it's very much necessary. So I have all my equipment. Let me back up on this for a minute. So I made my podcast subscription only back in like April or May. And what it did, I don't know if I did something wrong or I didn't finish following what it prompted me to do. Locked up like 50 episodes. And what I was trying to do was like, you do a monthly fee, $5, $10 a month, whatever you decide. And then if you wanted to listen to past episodes, it'd be like $1 or $2, whatever. It locked it up, kicked out all my subscribers. Well, I went back and tried to make another change and just take that off. I guess it still let me do my podcast, but it put a restriction on me because I made too many changes in a 30-day period. So now I'm trying to get my subscribers back. Again, not money for me, but it gets me on different platforms and people that want to. All of you that have listened in the past know for sure how much you've reached out to me privately. Again, Just because people don't do it publicly or you don't see it on social media doesn't fucking mean it's not happening. Just the people I have that reach out to me and say, keep doing what you're doing. You help me get clean. You help me leave the bad relationship. You help me leave my town. You help me get my kids in order. You help me get my health in order. That's enough for me. That's enough. Hey, I got huge goals. I never plan on stopping this. I don't care if it's season 10. I plan on going on Joe Rogan one day. That sounds crazy to people. See, if I make it, if I manifest that and make my goals that fucking high, then if I fall a little bit beneath that, then I still exceeded the expectations of myself. I don't have expectations of no one except myself. Hey, ultra running, I plan on doing the Moab 240 one day and a Badwater 135. If y'all never heard of that, look it up. I plan on being in a race with Cam Hanes and David Goggins. If you don't know who that is, look it up. I plan on sitting on Joe Rogan's podcast one day. If you don't know who he is, then you probably live under a rock. But anyway, it takes one thing. So I'm going to start with my story right now. I lifted those restrictions. My podcast is subscription optional. So what I'm doing is, you don't see no equipment. I have all my equipment in another room. It's not functional for me right now. I've had that equipment for probably 28 months. Brand new. Most of it is still in the box, never been used. Mixing board, 3 microphones, laptop, webcam. I got the laptop and webcam in here. I'm not using it for other stuff later. It's just not functional for guests to come on that don't know me personally. I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not embarrassed of anything I have. But the idea is getting more resources to finish converting that and getting it where I can have these people on. And some of these will be Zoom and video chats because some of these people live in other states and other countries even. There's no way we can just do an 2-hour podcast. We're not Joe Rogan and them, which is my favorite podcast on the planet. I think it's the biggest podcast on the planet because of his variety and reach, because of his perspective. It's not one particular subject matter. So what my podcast is it's no particular subject matter. It's not. It's about life. I'll talk everything from training to music to enabling parents to children to addiction, everything. That's what I'm about. All of these things. To sex, whatever it is. So I'm always looking for a plug, a sponsor, an advertisement, and then I don't have to worry about subscription so much. But that gets me on other platforms. So I've exceeded let me see, this is August. Yeah, I'm halfway through season 4. In February, about mid-February, end of February, it'll be season 5. So I'm doing it this way. The reason you don't see equipment is because this will be on Spotify and it will be on Apple Play. My previous YouTube channels were just, they've been stagnant and doormat. I probably haven't posted in, I would say, if I said 8 months, that's probably not even long enough. It's probably been over a year. So with saying that, this is an experiment. I still might have to change it. I decided to do it this way. I'm recording from two different things right now. The webcam and the laptop doesn't give me the quality I want without hooking up the equipment. That's my experience. Maybe that's my lack of knowledge in that, because even though I have to learn those things for this podcast and for the things I'm doing, it's like social media. A lot of people need a break from social media. We all need a break from certain things. But for what I do, my training, my speaking, working on, all the things that I do, I've been invited. We'll talk about that in another podcast. I've spoke a few places over the years, and I've been invited to other places, and they wanted to water me down, and I wasn't willing to compromise that. Them are my non-negotiables, so I won't do it. I think I would have anybody wants to reach out to me, the biggest, if you know my story, you know my backstory, you know what I'm dealing with right now, the rest of my life, I think I need to be talking to incarcerated youth or troubled youth right now and single mothers that are having problems with their boys. That's my them are my target audience for speaking, but I'm not willing to compromise or water it down. If you want me to go speak to them, again, I've never been a drug addict, but I've dealt with drug addicts my whole life, and that's probably why I'm not one. And I've had the worst case scenario happen in my life. What I think is the worst case scenario with a family member and drug addiction. Doesn't mean I have, but doesn't mean I haven't had a front row seat and dealt with it for decades. When people want to water me down or censor me, I asked them, I said, the reason you're talking to me about it is because your watering down and censorship hasn't worked. You arrived at me because what you're doing is fucking ineffective. That's why. The tough love should have started a long time ago. So for those just listening, I'm trying to bring you up to speed. So what I thought is, till I get my equipment hooked up and get guests on, I need to get to YouTube. So with this podcast, what it will be is I'm going to start a new YouTube channel. It'll be Savage Mind Podcast. Don't expect guests right away. Don't expect to see me equipment right away. Don't expect to see music in the background. This is a no frills podcast about real fucking life, about real issues, about telling the truth, about accountability, not about your feelings. Don't care if you're offended. Don't care if you're about cancel culture. Don't care about none of that shit. I try not to speak from opinion. I try to speak from perspective and experience, and that's all I can do. And what I've seen and dealt with my whole life and what's going on. So I don't know if it makes it more powerful or makes it look more professional if you see my equipment. Maybe in the next podcast of doing this, I can show you my equipment. When guests on, I will have to. But in the meantime, I decided to do it this way and bring everybody up to speed. So right now at Savage Mind Podcast, we're halfway through season 4. Still haven't been able to get the guest on. Still don't have my makeshift studio ready. Have all my equipment. I've exceeded my expectations on reaching certain countries, downloads. I've not got there with the subscriptions. Again, it's putting your debit card in for $10 a month, and most people won't take the time to do that when they can get it for free. It's the truth. I thought at the time, if it's mandatory and if people appreciate and value my messages and they won't mind putting their debit card in for $10 a month. I guess that's too much to ask for. But nevertheless, I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing because I don't ignore my purpose. Sometimes going to your job every day is not your purpose. For those of you who get to live your purpose every day and get paid to do it for a living, regardless of whatever the monetary value is of that, that's what's powerful, because you don't work a day in your life. I get paid to do this. I don't have to be rich. I've always told everybody, everything that I'm developing, everything I'm doing, yes, even at a later age, I don't ever have to get rich. I just need to be able to make a living at it, and that's enough for me. So yes, I look for a plug, looking for an advertisement, looking for a sponsor. So when you see this on YouTube, I don't know what I'm going to do with my other 2 YouTube channels. I may scrap them all together. Most of it's just training stuff. There are stuff like this, but it's a lot of, Spartan races and maybe some marathon training. Not the actual races, but training. Like I was doing marathon. I don't do road racing. I do ultra expedition trail races and Spartan races. I used to do Tough Mudder, stuff like that. It'd be my training for 3 or 4 weeks. I'd get on the subject matter, whatever it is, about race, different kind of races, but I'd also talk about narcissist mothers or drug addiction or I try to stay away from religion and politics, but I got something really on my mind lately regarding religion, and it's not an attack on a religion. I want to give my perspective and my experience on being the person I am now compared to how I was raised and what I've been around my whole life. So when you see this should be the first episode on the new YouTube channel. I got to figure it out. It may take a little bit to get it posted. So on one aspect, it'll be still on Spotify, Apple Play, stuff like that. I'm encouraging you to go subscribe, please, and share. See, a lot of people, especially local people, they will support someone like me privately, but they won't do it publicly. And again, y'all have heard this. It does not mean that they talk shit, hated, or gossiped, or had something to say about people like myself, which I don't give a fuck. What people think about us are none of our business. What we think about them are none of their business. But they've allowed other people to, because people's need to fit in and be popular and be accepted overpowers often in this society what they really feel like they should be doing. Most people have no idea who they are. Most people aren't living the life that they want to live. They live the life that they think other people think they should. That's the truth. Most of us would be working different jobs with different partners, would have different sexual preferences, would be doing totally something different if it wasn't for worrying about what people think. So, with saying that, everyone listening to this that's on Spotify and Apple Play and all that, you won't see the video. If you want to see the video, look, a lot of people's driving. I listen to so much driving because I drive a lot for work that I can't watch the video anyway. One, it's dangerous, and two, I just can't. So I listen to stuff. But for those that don't know me, I think sometimes they just want to be able to put a face with the voice, and you'll be able to see how these guests on one of these days. Maybe some of them have changed their mind, but I don't think we're the shortage on people that want to tell their story and talk about their journey in this life and changes and growth and happy stuff to gut-wrenching tragedies to failures to success, because the failures are more important than the success. I got so many people lined up. I don't bother them anymore. My thing was I'm not going to reach out to these people anymore until it's ready. Some of them I still talk to. Some of them are friends, some of them are family, and some of them people are in other parts of the United States, other parts of the world. When I get ready, when it gets to that level and I get to that phase and I can get them on, I'll reach out to them and see if they're still interested. If not, there's always going to be somebody else. So everyone on Spotify, Apple Play, Google Play, the other smaller platforms, I'm grateful for all of them. You'll hear this. If you want to see the video part, you need to go to YouTube. And we'll post about that and talk about that in the next podcast of whatever the handle will be and the hashtags and stuff like that. So I know there's always stuff I forget, but I feel like this was like a relaunch of what I'm doing and bring everybody up to speed that don't know. And for everything I'll forget and talk about, because I could do everything. I can never do everything in one podcast unless I'm going back and forth with someone else. I'd be here all day, and if you know me, you know that's true. And I'm unapologetic about that, because it's not that I want to hear myself talk. It's not that I think I'm right. It's because these are things that are so important to me. It's not just passion. I think they're crucial to our life. So in the meantime, please go subscribe. If you have something that you think I would be interested in advertising or you'd like to sponsor, reach out to me and talk to me about it. But I won't compromise my value system, and I have my non-negotiables. So if you don't know what them are, reach out to me. We'll talk about it, because I'm not willing to be compromised just over some financial resources. If that was the case on a lot of things, if you know me, I'd been out. I wouldn't be in the situation I am now, and I would not be struggling. But what most of society is enticed by, and what they are intrigued by, and how they're so easy manipulated and so willing to cross people and throw them under the bus and compromise what they're about is usually for not even that much. It's not. People will cross you for very little, and I'm not willing to do those things. So everyone has a price, and most people's price is way too low. And reach out to me in the meantime. If you know what I live and you know what I'm about and you believe in this podcast, please go subscribe. Taking sponsors, taking any advertisement, but I won't beg anybody. And regardless of your support or lack of support, it won't change what I'm doing, because I'm gonna do it either way. I'm not at a place in life, and the level of my mental discipline, people can't throw me off my game. They can't distract me, and they can't get me to quit. The only person that can get me to quit is me. The only person that could be as hard as no one could be harder on me than me. But I believe in what I'm doing, no matter how long it takes. So in the meantime, y'all please go subscribe. Please go support, go share. Stay humble, live savage. Love y'all.